Africans, of course, fatigued about our power woes. Some good news, perhaps Eskom boosting profits for the first half of its financial year. Profits rose by 22% to around 11 billion rand for the 6 months that ended in August. Eskom's debt position improved, partly because government agreed to convert a 60 billion rand loan to Eskom into equity. It's also given 10 billion rand in new funds to Eskom. 13 billion will follow next year. While the grid remains tight, Eskom has only imposed load shedding once over the past 3 months. So are these financial results also good news? To discuss, we're joined by Eskom's Chief Financial Officer, Anoj Singh. Thank you for joining us, Anoj. So let's put this in perspective first. So 11 billion, say, as profit, but Eskom still has 300 billion or thereabouts in debt. You still have this monkey on your shoulder, all these power plants to build. So does better profits, does this count much?
Oh yeah, certainly it does count quite a bit in terms of strengthening the balance sheet, certainly for the short term. And obviously it allows us to access the debt capital markets to fund the capital expenditure program that we do have on the strength of our own balance sheet. The credit rating of the organization currently is relatively weak. So these profits and these equity injections from government obviously help to stabilize the balance sheet and allow us to access the debt capital markets.
All right, now lay South Africans will look at this and think maybe you won't impose these huge increases, but that's not the case.
It's difficult to fund a capital expenditure program without tariff increases. So the tariff increases are here to stay for a while yet. So yes, I think in terms of the 300 billion that you spoke about, cash flows are necessary to be able to repay those debts over the long term, servicing both the capital as well as the interest payments that are due on those debt instruments.
Okay, so let's look at it simply. There's an agreement basically where we have tariff increases of about 8% per year until 2018. But you are allowed to show that, you know, according to the past tariff increase, we didn't cover our costs, so we can claw back some costs. That's why this year we looked at 13%. Some people are saying 17% for next year. The 8%, you may understand, it makes us feel a bit duped. It seems to not matter, actually.
Well, I think the mechanism that you're referring to is the regulatory clawback mechanism, or the RCA as the NERSA methodology calls it. It's actually a risk mitigation mechanism that allows both for the balancing for the consumer as well as for Eskom in terms of any unforeseen costs, any unforeseen economic circumstances that may happen. You would appreciate that the multi-year price determination is just that. It's a multi-year estimation of what your prices should be over a period of time. In the MYPD3 case, it's a 5-year determination. And we make estimations of inflation, we make estimations of economic growth, we make estimations of costs that would be incurred over that period of time. And as those assumptions prove to be different in reality, the RCA mechanism allows you to be in a position to make adjustments for those economic circumstances.
Are those costs that you can claim back ring-fenced, and are you being frugal, knowing that you can claim back? You know, we hear of alarming prices for coal. Are those costs coming under control? I see maintenance costs are going up.
I think, yes, I think from our perspective, we do our best to be in a position to incur costs prudently. We are also under an obligation to actually prove the prudency of those incurred costs to NERSA. So NERSA has basically taken our RCA application, for example, and they will apply prudency tests to every line item in the application to ensure that whatever costs we've incurred prudently, and to the extent they believe that it has not been prudently incurred, you will find that they will disallow some of those costs from the RCA application.
All right, so you're saying it's all fair. What are we in for as South Africans? Is 17% next year? Does that sound right to you? And it sounds like for the next I can't remember what it's called, that multi-year agreement, you're going to be even more aggressive, and Eskom still saying we're not getting to cost-reflective prices.
I think certainly from our perspective, if you look at the RCA application for next year, we've applied for 22.8 billion in terms of reimbursement. As I said, NERSA will undertake a prudency exercise on those costs, and to the extent that they determine whatever amount is prudent, that will then inform the tariff increase for next year. So from that perspective, we'd basically be speculating if we had to put a number on it just yet.
Okay, you don't want to do that. It is a burden on South Africans. I'm sure you understand that. Especially when we hear that municipalities still owe millions, billions. When Brian Molefe came in, that was on the agenda. What is happening with that outstanding debt?
I think we've certainly arrested the escalation and the spiraling of the municipal debts through the signing of the, let's say, settlement agreements with the municipalities. We've signed 15 agreements with the top 20 defaulters. And by and large, the municipalities are sticking to the spirit of those agreements thus far. Else, we had threatened them with disconnection at that point in time. And through the efforts of National Treasury as well as SALGA, we've basically been in a position to arrest that spiraling debt thus far.
All right. I have to ask you about the growth data that came out today. Electricity production constrained, shrinking by 8%. And it's been said that Eskom is the only service provider, perhaps, that goes out and asks people not to use its service. But what if South Africans do make alternative arrangements? Is this number, that contraction of 8%, a reflection of that decreasing demand? And what does that mean for the future? Because we are the ones providing the revenue.
I think just on your data in terms of the reduction in Eskom volumes, I think the reduction in Eskom volumes was 1.8% year on year.
Okay, so that 8% reflects other things as well.
Sure. Exactly. So from that perspective, I think yes, there is a whole lot of factors that go into that. I think the subdued economic environment is obviously one of that. The declining commodity prices is another. In terms of the energy-intensive user group, obviously reducing their consumption as well. So it's a reality that we faced with, and I think certainly for now we're in a position to respond to that. We are stabilizing the energy
supplies. Are you
supplies.
stressing about demand, about the fact that South Africans are finding alternatives?
I think for us, I think it's one of those natural issues that happen in any industry, that you will find that there will be disruptive technologies that will come across. Renewables, for example, is one of those things that we have to make peace with. The integrated resource plan, for example, says that by 2025, I think it is, that 17% of all energy should be renewables. So from that perspective, there will be those disruptive technologies that come along.
Anoj, we've run out of time. Just very quickly, would you say Eskom is in better shape? I wish we could talk more about whether we should outsource, privatize, so on. But given what you've got on your plate right now, is Eskom in better shape to face it at least?
I think certainly in the last quarter, we've certainly stabilized both financially and operationally, and I think that the results that we've released today effectively are a reflection of that.
All right, thank you so much for your time. Anoj Singh, CFO of Eskom. We take a short break. After that, we'll take a closer look at that crucial growth data released.